Hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining the broadcast today. Today we are going to answer your questions that you had about the masterclass. We have received some questions already by people who messaged us earlier. So I'm going to start with those, and feel free to ask your questions. Just put them in the chat, and they will pop up on my end. So I will answer those. Okay, so one of the questions we received is, what tests can help me figure out the exact reason why I'm currently having difficulty conceiving? So that is a very good question. And there are lots of tests we can use. The tests which will be recommended for you or you will be referred for will be the tests that are most needed for your unique situation. So when you start work with us, you have a long questionnaire with 150 questions that you fill out. And this questionnaire plus all the other test results you had done in the past get analyzed by your coach prior to speaking to you. Then there is the initial consultation, which goes for approximately an hour. And based on the information you share during the consultation and based on the information in the questionnaire and your previous test results, your coach will come up with a treatment plan, which will also include additional investigations. So things which will need to be looked at. So some of the common tests that we may use are hormone tests, genetic tests, tests for toxicities. It just really depends on what's showing up in your questionnaire and what you tell us. So, for example, if you say that you eat fish once or twice a week or that you enjoy your tuna, then we will be suspecting that you may have high mercury levels, and this would need to be investigated. So there is no set of tests that everyone is given, but each person gets certain tests to do based on their individual case and their analysis. All right. So hello, Barbara. And there is one more user who is saying hello. You can actually confirm with StreamYard. Click on the link, and then your name will show up. So I'll be able to address you by your name. So hello to everyone who's watching. Thank you for joining. The next question that I received, what are the most important nutrients for optimal fertility, and can I get them from diet alone, or do I need supplements? That's a great question. Now, again, similar to the question about the tests, the most important nutrients for optimal fertility will be slightly different for you than for someone else. And this is because your individual needs may be different, and you may have an issue with your thyroid, and it's actually the thyroid that is the reason why you are currently experiencing suboptimal fertility, why your egg quality is not as great as it should be, or why your hormones are slightly out of balance, or why your cycles are irregular. So for a person like that, we would need to address the thyroid. So we would be prescribing nutrients which are key for thyroid health. And once the thyroid's improved, then fertility would improve on its own. While there are lots of supplements and nutrients like vitamin D, vitamin A, K2, vitamin C, vitamin E, which are crucial for optimal fertility, just taking all of those supplements without actually knowing what you're trying to address may not help you get pregnant. It may optimize the level of those nutrients, but if you're not treating the cause, then you could be just going round and round in circles. And we see this so often with our clients that they feel like they're doing everything under the sun, they're taking all the supplements out there, and they're still not pregnant. And that's because for them something else is the issue, and we need to find out what that issue is. And if it's an organ or if it's a system that's not functioning optimally, we need to address it first. All right. Another question that came through. Oh, sorry, I forgot to answer the second part of the previous question. Can I get all the nutrients from the diet alone, or do I need supplements? Okay, so we would like to think that we can get all of our nutrients from our diet. However, there are lots of reasons why this is not the case. One is that our soils are largely depleted of many nutrients, and especially if you're not buying organic food, if you're buying, commercially produced fruits and veg, they tend to grow the same fruits and vegetables on the same patch of land. Now, fruits and vegetables, just like us, have the need and preference for certain minerals from the soil. So they deplete the soil of those minerals over time if you don't do the so-called crop rotation, where you grow different things on the same patch of land, and that's to restore its mineral balance. So it's important that you eat organic, and definitely organic fruits and veg have been shown to contain more minerals and more vitamins and nutrients than the non-organic fruits and veg. However, even so, when we're talking about fertility and when we're talking about the adequate levels of nutrients that you need to address a thyroid issue, to address a liver issue, to address hormonal imbalances, you need much higher levels of those nutrients than you will be able to obtain from food. Sure, food may be meeting your basic needs, but not the therapeutic needs. And that's where you're going to need some extra nutrients in the form of supplements, which are highly bioavailable, meaning that then your body is able to absorb them. The next question that we received, hello everyone. I'm getting lots more messages here. I'll get to all of your questions, don't worry. I'm just going to go through my list here that I received. So I'm a woman over 45. Considering my age, I'd like to know if we still have a realistic chance to conceive. So that's a great question, and it's a tough one, because when you enter that mid-40s stage of your life, you can get lots of mixed opinions. And conventional medical opinion is that women already over 38 have very slim chances of getting pregnant naturally with their own eggs. And then once you hit 40s, they like to show you those statistics where you can see that chances of conception are decreasing and chances of chromosomal issues are increasing, chances of miscarriages are increasing. So it doesn't look very optimistic. Having said that, we've had clients conceive at 44, 45, 46, 47. 47 was our oldest client to conceive and to give birth at 47. I actually had a client at 48 conceive for the first time ever in her life, but unfortunately that pregnancy ended in an early miscarriage. But still, for her it was an achievement, in the sense that she didn't believe she could get pregnant in the first place. So she's now working on improving the egg quality even further. So it does become more difficult to conceive. I will say that. That's important to state. The pregnancies in 45 plus group are possible. They're not common. They require a lot of hard work and dedication in terms of, you know, what you need to take out from your diet, what you need to limit or eliminate, reduce from your lifestyle. And it also depends, you know, what is the health of the sperm. Sperm is very important. The sperm, the older the woman for fertility, the more important is the health of the sperm. And you know, and that's because the egg is going to try to fix the sperm if there's something wrong with the sperm. And in the process of fixing the sperm, it's losing its own nutrient reserves, it's losing its own energy reserves, and then there is not enough for the embryo. So the better the sperm quality, the better are your chances of conceiving also at an older age for fertility. So don't automatically assume that if you can't conceive at the age of 45 or over, that is due to your age. But also take the sperm into consideration. And then another important factor I'd like to mention is that if you have secondary infertility, which means you have a child, one or two, then your nutrient reserves, your energy reserves, they've become depleted. Your immune system could be working slightly differently. Certain bacterial viruses, which you have that you may not be aware of, they could have, you know, taken over a larger part of your system without you being aware of it, because during each pregnancy, your immune system is slightly suppressed during the whole pregnancy, and that gives opportunistic bugs a lot of time to get, you know, settled even better. And then once the baby is born, your immune system sees this situation, and it can actually lead to autoimmunities and other issues. So it's important to just take all of this into the account. So it does become more difficult and more complex, but it doesn't mean that it's hopeless or that, you know, there is no way that you could get pregnant. You absolutely can, and no one can tell you in advance whether or not that will be possible. But by optimizing everything, from our experience, our body is then in a better state to conceive, and, you know, to take pregnancy to full term. All right. Hello. We've got a few more questions that have come through, and just once again, I'm not seeing some of the names, so if you'd like me to address you by a name, just please click on the link that says confirm your name with StreamYard. All right, so Red Rose says, my question is, I have one cyst, regular periods, and was told the fibroid is not a problem for conceiving. And you need my advice on how to conceive. All right. So fibroids and cysts all point to hormonal imbalances and irregularities. Some women are genetically predisposed to fibroids, and fibroids don't necessarily have to be an issue for conception. It just depends where they're located. So fibroids can be inside the uterine cavity, they can be in the wall. So it just depends where they're located, and depends on their size. If they're interfering with conception, they may need to be surgically removed. If they're small and they're, you know, in a place where they're not going to be interfering, and that's something your doctor can check, then they can be fine. So how to conceive? Look, fibroids and cysts are best treated with dietary and lifestyle adjustments and with supplements, which again are prescribed for your individual needs based on your case. So there are lots of herbs that you can also use to remove fibroids, but they're also all contraindicated for pregnancy. So you have to be careful with those. You either prioritize fibroid treatment for 3 months, where you say, I'm not going to be trying to conceive, Or, like I said, depending on the nature of the fibroid, you can modulate things through diet, through lifestyle, and through supplements, and still optimize the body for conception. Thank you, Barbara. Thanks for your comment. All right, Charlene asks, can the optimal levels of folic acid help prevent risk of genetic abnormalities? How can a person test their folic acid levels? That's a great question, Charlene. And now, there are different types of folic acid. Folic acid is the man-made version. Then you have folate and folinic acid. Folate is naturally occurring in fruits and veg. Folinic acid is sort of the version of methylated or activated form, not methylated, activated form that the body can absorb easily. And then there is methylfolate, which is recommended for those who have MTHFR polymorphism. So it's important to check your MTHFR status before knowing what type of folate is the best for you, because if you do have MTHFR gene mutation and you take folic acid, it can make things worse for you. So that's important to check. Can folic acid, just in general, can it help prevent the risk of genetic abnormalities? It can definitely prevent developmental abnormalities, so things like cleft lip, spina bifida. But when it comes to preventing trisomies, it's not the only element. It's not the only factor. Obviously, you need to have adequate levels of folate in your system for conception, for normal development of your baby. But there are lots of other nutrients and other genetic factors at play when we're talking about genetic abnormalities under one umbrella. How can you check your levels? You can do a red cell test for folate or for folic acid. If you do serum is not actually going to show you what your body is absorbing. It's only going to show you what you're currently ingesting through diet and through supplements, but it's not going to be showing what's actually getting inside the cell, and there's a big difference there. Okay, next question. I don't see your name. How can you determine sperm quality if you're buying from a cryobank and you're in your late 40s? So if the sperm is frozen, meaning it's donor sperm, to be able to donate sperm needs to be of top-notch quality. And usually these banks also give you a little bit of information about the donor, the health, the height, hair color, eye color, some parameters. They're not going to be, able to tell you about their genetic polymorphisms or things like that. But in terms of just sperm quality alone, you can be sure that the sperm is going to be of good quality. Otherwise, they wouldn't have banked it. They wouldn't have frozen it if it was of poor quality. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Are there more questions? Okay, the questions coming in. So let me just see which one's next, because as they come in, they just move. Okay, so there's a question about metformin, again, I'm sorry, I don't see your name. You're taking 1,000 milligrams of metformin 2 times a day. So, what is ideal? I would really speak to your prescribing doctor, because they will be able to measure your insulin, your glucose, and also if whenever you have issues with blood sugar, it's important to also use dietary and lifestyle adjustments. So if you need to regulate blood sugar, if you have insulin resistance, exercising, especially cardio, is excellent. Also doing some weights, modifying your diet is really important there too. So don't simply just rely on the drug. And, it's very difficult for me to tell you what is the optimal level of metformin for you based on the information you shared, because, we really take a holistic approach where we look at a case and we look at the questionnaire with 150 questions and all your test results before we can make any statements like that, how much of the meds to take. All right, the next question from Edwin. I have endometriosis, 2 failed IVFs due to bad quantity of eggs. Spermiogram is normal. So I'm sorry to hear that 2 of your IVFs failed. So endometriosis in itself is quite tricky because it's a condition that involves the reproductive system. It involves the endocrine system, and there is also the immune system involvement and the thyroid involvement. So it can be quite a complex situation. So it's important to check all of those areas. And once again, endometriosis, just like fibroids, is best treated with natural supplements, dietary and lifestyle adjustments. For endometriosis in general, it's not recommended that you eat red meat or that you have too many animal proteins, and that you're very mindful of sources of plastic and xenoestrogens in your water, in your products that you're using for cleaning, for cosmetics, and so on. We've worked with many patients who have endometriosis and who were then able to conceive. So, quantity of eggs. With IVF, it's always tricky because they're shutting down your own cycle and they're using drugs to create an artificial cycle. And some ovaries respond really well, some ovaries not so well. So they don't end up collecting as many eggs as they would like. And the ones that they do collect are of poor quality. And this is very much age dependent. The older the woman, the poorer responder she is to IVF, and this is all down to her AMH level. So the lower the AMH, the poorer response you're going to get from IVF drugs. And some IVF clinics are aware of this now, and they're actually using much lower dose of stimulation drugs in women who are considered older for fertility. Yes, thank you, Catherine. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com Facebook. So there is a link that you can see. Someone says, thank you. You're very welcome. Okay. So one more question. We got PGT-A test results came as negative. Oops, it just jumped. Missing chromosomes. We are 40 years old. How can we prove embryo or egg quality? That's a great question. Again, I hope you've been listening to the live stream since we started. So there are lots of factors at play here, from nutrient deficiencies to toxicities to genetic polymorphisms, poor function of another organ or system that's indirectly impacting your fertility. And chromosomal issues can come from both eggs and the sperm. So don't ignore the sperm, because at the end of the day, it's 50-50. You are sharing 50% of your genetic materials. So it's important also to check the sperm and make sure that the sperm is fine. And which supplements, which tests, which dietary and lifestyle adjustments will be recommended for you will again be tailored to your individual needs. But already now, you can start doing certain things like avoiding coffee, avoiding caffeine, and alcohol, avoiding xenoestrogens from cleaning products, personal care products, and cosmetics, filtering your water, and start to get some of these tests done, checking your genetic polymorphisms, toxicities. This is a good first step. And of course, then it helps if you have someone you can work with who can help you interpret those results and put them in the context of fertility, and then advise you on what to do next. The next question is, my name is Jen. Hi, Jen. I've been taking both MyoD inositol with DHEA simultaneously to improve egg quality. I have been told in groups that they're contraindicated, but I have also been advised by REs that a combination is fine. Can you help me understand this? And I don't have PCOS, but read that inositols help cell mitochondria. That's a great question. Okay. So in the US, DHEA is prescribed as a supplement. Here in Europe, and I'm not too sure about Australia. I think Australia is the same. People are more careful with DHEA because DHEA is a mother hormone, and the body can use DHEA to make any other hormone it wants, it needs. In the context of fertility, it is hoped that the body would use DHEA to produce more estrogen, which would then boost your egg quality. But that's not always the case. In some women, it can convert to testosterone, and then it does more harm than good, because then it can actually cause you to miss an ovulation, or your cycles can become shorter, and so it's not really ideal. I'm not a huge fan of DHEA. You won't see me prescribing it to my patients. I prefer to focus on optimizing the hypothalamic HPO, just for simplicity, HPO axis. So the communication between the brain and the ovaries, which is focusing on FSH, estradiol, LH, and progesterone. So these are the main hormones to focus on. And DHEA, because the body is unpredictable, because we don't know what it's going to do with it, I prefer to leave it aside. If someone's on it, I recommend that they don't take it for more than 6 weeks, which is generally what IVF clinics also do. They prescribe DHEA for about 6 weeks prior to your procedure. And studies have shown that DHEA is useful in the context of IVF. For natural conception, they haven't actually seen improved results. So I think, DHEA is a hormone, so it acts very differently to your inositol. And inositol, yes, supports the egg quality, and it can definitely be used. But again, the protocols which are used for IVF are not necessarily as beneficial for natural conception. So I wouldn't, if you've been doing it and your reproductive endocrinologist said it's fine to do this, do it, but I wouldn't be taking DHEA for more than 6 weeks, and I would be monitoring your cycle and see if there are any changes there. Helen. Hi, Helen. Thanks for your question. With low AMH, is IVF ever really worth it? That's a good question. I think if you're going to be doing a protocol with a clinic that's going to give you just low stimulation, potentially yes. What we've seen with some of our patients is that after they do the program, their AMH actually goes up a little bit. So it's not a huge drastic jump, but it's still enough that it makes them good candidates for IVF with their own eggs. So it just depends, also on your FSH, depends on your estradiol. I think you need to be looking at those values as well, because FSH is a much better indicator of egg quality than AMH. Hello from Hungary. Hello, or Solja. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thank you for saying hello. Charlene asks, is it possible to test your egg quality? If so, how? So FSH, as I mentioned before, is a good indicator of your egg quality. Ideal FSH is around 5. But as long as it's in the reference range, is still acceptable, and it's also acceptable for IVF clinics. So if your FSH is right, that's already telling you that you're producing enough estrogen, and the eggs are of good quality. But there's no other way to really test the egg quality. All right, I think these are all the questions that have come through, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today and for asking your questions. And oh yes, one more question came through from the previous messages. It was a question about why the cycles are getting shorter. When women approach their 40s, once they're in their 40s, why are the cycles getting shorter? That's a great question. So, it's often a cause for concern for many women, but it doesn't have to be. What's more important is the individual length of your follicular phase and your luteal phase. Okay, so they both should not be less than 10 days. If follicular phase is shorter than 10 days, then the egg doesn't have enough time to mature properly. If your luteal phase is shorter than 10 days, then that doesn't give enough time for the fertilized egg to implant. So taking that into consideration, I think it's more important to look at the actual length of each phase rather than the cycle as a whole. Trying to aim for, the cycle length that you had when you were in your 20s is probably unrealistic. And there are a few reasons for this. One, your body and your reproductive system becomes more efficient as you're getting older because it had more practice over the years. Also, if you've had a full-term pregnancy and had a child, the reproductive system is even more efficient. So the actual bleed time could be 3 days instead of 7 days. And that's because most of the blood leaves within the first 24 hours. So your body should expel most of the blood in the first 24 hours of your cycle. It's not actually normal to have a 7-day bleed. You're just bleeding so profusely. That's, in our heads, we think that's okay because that's how it was when we were 17 or 23, but it's not very efficient. It's not the best for you. Also, one of the reasons why your cycles become shorter is so that it's kind of nature's way of giving you more chances and opportunities to conceive because you're approaching the end of your fertile years. So the more you ovulate, the more chances you have to conceive. So that's another way of viewing it. But I would not, if your FSH is fine, if your estradiol is fine, your progesterone, LH are fine. If your follicular and luteal phase are not shorter than 10 days, then I would not be worrying about it too much. But of course, there are lots of other things to take into consideration, and there could be hormonal imbalances that can be corrected and that can impact women of any age, also women in their 30s. So don't automatically assume if there's some irregularities that's because of your age. Okay, let's see. I think one more comment came through. What can I do? I have taken supplement CoQ10, so I'm not really sure what the exact question is. CoQ10 is good. It's good for the mitochondria of the eggs. One more question came through. One more quick question. If you have been taking egg improving supplements for months, like the ones mentioned above, do you suggest a supplement holiday where you stop taking supplements for a short time? It's a bit like asking, should I stop brushing my teeth? Because I've been brushing them religiously every day for so many years. Supplements are building blocks of your cells. So the nutrients inside those supplements are building blocks of the cells. And of course, it depends which supplements you're taking. If some supplements you do need to take a break, like I said, DHEA shouldn't be taken for more than 6 weeks. Also, there are certain herbal supplements that you would only take maybe for 3 months or 6 months. But when it comes to folic acid, B12, vitamin D, vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, CoQ10, in the context of fertility, you really need to be taking those regularly. And the more you take them, the better it is, because your reproductive system is not important to your body's survival. So all the other organs which are important for a body's survival are going to be first on the priority list when it comes to supplement or nutrient distribution. So the nutrients are going to go to the key organs first, and then there is a trickle-down effect to the reproductive system. So any leftovers will go there, because if your reproductive system stops working, well, most people don't even know, because it's not important to your survival. If something happens to your liver or your heart, you know it straight away. So yeah, I would not be taking a break. But again, it depends on what supplements you're taking. Okay, now suddenly lots of questions are coming in. Amy asks, my period is not as heavy as when I was younger. It used to be heavier, 5 to 7 days. I'm 45 now, and it's lasting about 3 days and much lighter. Does this mean the lining is not adequate? Amy, I just answered that question 5 minutes ago, I believe. Someone's asked a very similar question. It doesn't have to be that your lining is not good. I mean, it depends on how much blood you're losing. If you're actually soaking pads, you're changing the pads in those first 3 days, or the first 24 hours or first 48 hours, then that's a good period. If you're only spotting and you don't really have to change your pad, then maybe it is not thick enough. But again, it doesn't have to be due to the age. It can be just due to hormonal issues that can be an issue for a woman at any age. So we would need to have a look at your case and see what's going on to see if this is really an issue. Helen asks, is CoQ10 recommended for sperm health too? Yes, it is, absolutely. CoQ10 is important for sperm motility. Saima asks, my AMH is 0.5. I've been married for 10 years, but haven't conceived. Since December, periods are irregular. Again, we have discussed AMH previously. AMH does come down as you get older, and that's because women are born with a finite number of eggs, and they use them up throughout their fertile years. And of course, when you hit your 40s, you're going to have a lower ovarian reserve than in your 20s. So you, of course, just because the ovarian reserve is lower doesn't mean you can't get pregnant. We know from reproductive endocrinology textbooks that women with low AMH can still conceive and conceive naturally and have a healthy full-term pregnancy and give birth to healthy babies. So don't be concerned too much about low AMH. It just doesn't make you a very good candidate for IVF with your own eggs. But I also mentioned previously that we have seen AMH go up a little bit after doing our program. Someone said, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I don't see your name, so thank you very much for your comment. And thank you, Barbara. You are too kind. Thank you, everyone. I think we're going to leave it here. Okay, one last question just came in from Amy. How bad is coffee? I do like it a lot. So we do like coffee, don't we? Yeah, coffee is not ideal. And the reason for that is because the caffeine, the main ingredient of coffee, is a pesticide. It's a natural pesticide, which, all pesticides are not great for fertility. So you should really be avoiding it, because some studies have found that even 1 cup of coffee per month can reduce your chances of conception. by quite a bit, and it can actually interfere with ovulation, and it also increases the risk of miscarriages. Okay, one more big question came in. All right, how are we doing for time? Okay, this is really the last one. So any further questions that come through, we will answer them offline. Hello, my age is 41. My first IVF cycle, we had 15 eggs retrieved, but we made only two made it to blastocyst stage, but none of them were chromosomally correct. Also, I'm on low dose 25 mg blood pressure meds. Does this affect egg quality? It depends on the meds, but also what's more important here is to ask, why are you on blood pressure medication? Why is your blood pressure high? Is it because you have high stress levels, or is it because you have some sort of kidney issue or heart issue? And these are, again, key organs that are important for your body's survival. So the body puts a lot more attention on these organs than your reproductive health. So getting to the bottom of it and addressing it is the key to understanding your fertility issue better. And with IVF, lots of eggs are retrieved, but it takes an egg 4 months to mature from its primordial form to the form that you ovulated in. And when you're doing IVF, they're just collecting eggs which were made to grow under the influence of the drugs, but those eggs may not have completed the 120-day maturation cycle, which means you can end up with some eggs which are chromosomally abnormal simply because they have not completed the 2 sets of meiosis that are necessary. So that's why out of many eggs that get retrieved, only 1 or 2 are actually normal, which is what they would be if you were just ovulating naturally. All right. Okay, a couple of more questions. Okay, guys, I'm giving you some extra minutes here, but then we have to really stop. How to correct low progesterone? It really depends on the whole egg quality. Because progesterone is produced by the corpus luteum, which is the leftover of the burst follicle. So if that's of poor quality, it means the whole egg maturation didn't go all that well. So it would require case analysis. Is green tea just as bad as coffee? No, it's not, because green tea doesn't have caffeine. It contains theine, which is a cousin of caffeine, and both often get thrown into the same basket. So green tea can be okay. Organic green tea, 1 cup a day. Hi, Charlene. Hi, Charlene Lincoln from Fertility Acupuncture. Thank you. Yes, it is my pleasure. And thank you all so much for joining me today. I've enjoyed answering your questions. Feel free to leave more questions, and I or someone from my team will answer them later. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying the masterclass, and please do watch all of the masterclass videos. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.